Hello and welcome to this next tutorial guide for your NEA, which is the design brief and specification. Let's get into it. First, a quick recap on Section A. Section A was worth 10 marks and you should have done that now about 4 or 5 pages, including the mind map, background research, your client interview and product analysis. Now, following that, Section B is also worth 10 marks, but it's only 1 or 2 pages. So if you do a good job here, you can really do quite well. The page looks something like this, and I'll show you some examples in a minute. And it's worth saying, I wouldn't really do it until you've ticked off all these sections. Yeah, if you're happy with your section A, move on. If you haven't done, say, your interview, maybe do that first. Okay, you really need a high quality interview before you start your design brief. If you need to catch up, do it and do it quickly. Okay, section B, how is it assessed? If you look at the marks scheme, I'm going to look at this top bracket here. It says for top marks, you need a comprehensive design brief, which clearly justifies how they have considered the user/client needs and wants and links directly to the context selected. Right. What is that in plain English? I would say that means for top marks, you need a full detailed plan of what you're going to do, considering all the research you've done, especially relating to the client needs. So let's say, for example, if it was storing personal items, I would first summarize the research you found out. Okay, maybe you found out that teenagers spend ages on their phone, 8 hours a day. Then maybe you interviewed a client and they said, I use the phone for homework, but sometimes it distracts me. You're building up a picture of issues here. And then product analysis, you should summarize what you find out, maybe what are the main weaknesses with existing products. Then you can state what you're going to do about it. And it's a design brief. A sentence would be something like this. I plan to design and make a phone storage holder that can charge a phone and also hide it out of sight when needed, blah, blah, blah. This is your pitch. This is a description of exactly what you're going to do to say how you're going to improve the client situation. And you've really got to be specific about what exactly the product is and how it's going to help them. I would say for the specification now, the lower section of the marks band here. Obviously for top marks, you need also a comprehensive design specification with a very high level of justification linking to the needs and wants of the client or user, and that fully informs subsequent design stages. Right, what does that mean in plain English? Also for top marks, you need a full and detailed list of success criteria for your product based on the evidence of your research, especially considering your user needs. So let's take this same scenario. You're going to create some sort of phone holder which also charges and maybe has some sort of hidden area where the phone's out of sight. You could then say exactly what the success criteria are for the product, and you can break it down by points like aesthetics, function, size, weight, material, blah, blah, blah. I would use expressions, phrases like this. It needs to, it must, okay? Then you're giving yourself definite criteria. I'm going to take you through an example page now, and this is a really good example. You notice at the top it starts with an introduction explaining the purpose of the design brief and spec. Then there's a summary of who the client is and what their main issues are. That could probably be on your interview as well, so maybe you don't need that necessarily. At the bottom left is a short summary of the findings of research. Notice it's in very concise bullet point form and it's broken down page by page. So here, background research, client interview and product analysis. Here's where the money is. This is where the big marks are, and the design brief. So as I said, it's a detailed and specific plan of exactly what you're going to make. And this student's been ambitious. They're going to make some sort of defense system for keeping pests at bay in the form of some sort of planter box. Okay, so they've given themselves an ambitious and specific plan of what the product will be. And then the other thing that's worth a lot of marks is the specification. And on the right, you see it's broken down a detailed and specific list of all the requirements, and most of them, where possible, are measurable. Notice the command words here: function, aesthetics, material, size, maintenance cost, environment, and really clear criteria like F1 is one functional requirement, F2 is the other. Look at S1 for size. They're given precise dimensions that it should be. Okay, so there's a good example of all the success criteria you might need. So in terms of sentence starters, I would use expressions like this. I plan to design and make, blah, 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 or based on the findings of client interview, product analysis, whatever. I've identified an issue with, there's an opportunity to create, and this should improve the client situation because that's, it's going to be 3 or 4 sentences like that to explain what your product is going to do. For the specification, I'd use expressions like this. It's essential that it does what? My client said that they wanted the product to be blah, blah, blah. It must, or ideally the solution should be, yeah? And then you can list off these really specific criteria. Don't forget to consider things like function, size, aesthetics, safety, ergonomics, ease of maintenance, sustainability, materials, cost, and weight. You don't have to use all of those, but at least the majority I would suggest. So what do you now need to do? Firstly, summarize the main findings of each piece of your research. That could be in bullet point form. Write a design brief, a detailed description of what you plan to make for your client or user. Say how you hope it will improve their situation. In a specification, make a detailed list of success criteria that your product should meet. Do this for a wide range of criteria like function, aesthetics, size, weight, blah, blah, blah. And in a conclusion, describe what your next steps are. It will probably be, I'm now going to begin sketching and modeling. Yeah. Some do's: say exactly what you plan to make. Justify your decisions based on research. Make your specification points specific, measurable, and justified. Use must and should comments, cover a wide range of criteria, and make sure you follow your specification in later design work. Don't be vague. Yeah. Don't write huge blocks of text if you don't need to. Don't contradict your research, and don't ignore your client's needs. All right, it should all tie together with the findings of Section 8. Best of luck with that. Later we'll be returning and you'll find this checklist in your study guide. Best of luck, crack on.